So South Africa will officially form a coalition government for the first time in history. The ANC, which has been in power since 1994, received only 40.18% of the votes, making them short of a majority. The party is now in several talks with other political parties to form a government. Similarly, in July last year, Spain elections failed to deliver a majority, resulting in a coalition. So what lessons can be learned from them? Let's now bring in Brenthurst Foundation's Executive Director, Ray Hartley. Ray, good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us. So why is this story so important about what has happened in Spain, considering where South Africa is currently?
Yeah, I think it's very important because we're all getting a very rapid education in what happens when you have no dominant party in an election. And I think one of the options that could be followed is called confidence and supply. And that's essentially where there's an agreement between a party and the largest party to offer them a 50% majority when it comes to two things: votes of no confidence. So that takes out the picture, that government constantly having to fight votes of no confidence, and that can be very destabilizing. And supply, which is budget, pass the budget. So that's one of the options that's on the table. I think the Spanish illustration actually shows that it can be quite a difficult option. It can lead to a kind of hamstrung government that can't move forward. I think that really was the lesson there.
Sorry, just before we go back to the Spanish model, what is supply and confidence? Just explain that model to us, because the Business Day has their lead story as well. ANC test the water with its rivals, and they also make reference to the supply and confidence.
Yeah, so I think it's exactly the two words. So, what can happen if you have a minority government? There's a government with 40%, because it is possible for Cyril Ramaphosa to be elected president with 40%. He doesn't need a coalition to achieve that. He won't get elected in the first round. The other competitors will be eliminated, and eventually he'll attain a majority. So that is possible. That he gets then to appoint the cabinet, etc. But that government would be very weak, and especially on two things. I mean, the first thing is that it could be subject to constant votes of no confidence. So, in South Africa, we have a fine tradition of votes of no confidence. They've never come off because the ANC has always been able to see them off with the majority. With 40%, there are many scenarios in which all of the other MPs might come together and pass a vote of no confidence.
Yeah.
So that would be very destabilizing. So you would agree with one party that gets you over 50% to always vote with you on votes of no confidence. And then the second one is the budget. Government can't function without the budget being passed, and you would have that agreement in place to support the passing of the budget.
Sure, but doesn't that undermine the Constitution and also what the Constitutional Court actually said about the role of MPs and Parliament in general, considering the, I think it was the UDM secret ballot matter as well as the Nkandla matter as well?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there really are any legal or constitutional obstacles.
But undermining it. Like, for instance, if two political parties are going to go into an agreement that says that if there's a motion of no confidence, we will not support that motion of no confidence in the president, even though we find that there's something wrong that the president has done. Now, for instance, the EFF has brought back the Phala matter, which is going to be heard in the Constitutional Court. And based on the Constitutional Court's finding, within the Democratic Alliance in that particular case, be hamstrung. They say that, geez, we went into such a deal, supply and confidence, but here's a finding by the Constitutional Court.
I think that's exactly the sort of difficulty that kind of arrangement throws up, and why I think probably the DA, as far as I know, would not really be as keen on that option as a proper coalition government, because it does put you in a position where you are sometimes going to have to hold your nose and vote with the party without really gaining anything. So you lose the, opposition role that you had on key things, but you don't really gain any ground. Although you could say that maybe they could get coalition governments in the provinces or something in exchange.
Yeah. Okay. So then the model that was followed by Pedro Sanchez, what's the risk there?
Yeah, I think that's exactly the risk, is that you end up in a volatile situation and in a constant kind of renegotiation of the terms of the deal. And you have a government that can't really move. It can't be proactive. It can't. And I mean, you're talking about Spain, a relatively stable established European democracy, in a country like ours where there's so many urgent things that need to be done by government to get the economy moving, to get jobs created, to actually move the country forward. You don't want this constant piecemeal negotiation around everything. We already have a problem of lack of decisiveness in the executive. Now add into that mix that there's going to be a round of talks with with an opposition party about every single piece of legislation or regulation, then I think you got a problem.
So in the case then of South Africa, wouldn't the better option then be for the ANC, which has secured the most number of votes, to go into a coalition with, let's say, the MK party as well as the EFF, because these are essentially parties that were born out of the ANC and former leaders of the ANC that have formed this party. And there is that political, ideological allegiance as well, or alignment, which then speaks to this question around the difficulties of having to have these negotiations consistently.
Yeah, I'm not sure that there is ideological alignment. I mean, I think that, for example, the MK party wants the constitution to be scrapped altogether. And the ANC is, for all its faults, very constitutional and accepts the decisions of the Constitutional Court, which sometimes have gone against it quite dramatically. So that's a big difference. The EFF wants wholesale nationalization of banks and all this kind of stuff. The ANC doesn't really go there. I think the ANC is more, it's in favor of state dominance in the economy and in state-owned enterprises, whereas the DA, I think, would be eager to see more private sector involvement. But the EFF, on the other hand, goes completely the other way. I think there's a very good Afrikaans word, broeder twis. You know, when brothers fall out, it can be heavier than any other kind of fallout. And I think if you look at the animosity that is, that Jacob Zuma, for example, has for Cyril Ramaphosa, it's very hard to see how they would be sitting together in government.
Yeah. What does this then mean for service delivery at the end of the day? Because they all say that we want to provide this service, we want the economy to grow, but they have ideological differences around how we get there as a country. This is now speaking about all various political parties that have made it into parliament.
I think the message from the election is very, very clear, and that is that there are no shortcuts to winning a majority of votes in South Africa. It's about your capacity to deliver. So that, I think the ANC was punished for its failure, really, to deliver jobs, to deliver a meaningful change, the deterioration of the local government environment, all of these things. I think people fly at a very high level with ideology and things. Voters don't. Voters drive through the potholes on the way to the polling station. They don't have water, maybe.
Yeah.
So I think delivery comes into very sharp focus. And this is how democracy works. The pressure is on all of the political parties to demonstrate how they are going to fix this delivery problem. Otherwise, there's no future for them.
Ray, thank you so much for your time. You don't miss the newsroom?
I miss the newsroom.
That is Ray Hartley there, who is a former journalist. I don't know if you ever become a former journalist, but Ray Hartley there, former news editor as well. He's now with the Brenthurst Foundation. He's the executive director there. Thank you so much for making time for us.